Welcome to Empower Hour, your go-to podcast for all things disability and independence, brought to you by Empowerabilities, your disability and aging experts. I'm co-host Afton Harper.
And I'm Julie Jordan. Listen in as we dive into real stories, resources, and meaningful conversations that empower individuals with disabilities to live life to the fullest.
Whether you're tuning in for advocacy, inspiration, or practical tips, you're in the right place.
This is Empower Hour, because independence isn't a destination, it's a journey.
I want to take a minute to tell you about some of the services we offer here at Empowerabilities. We're all about helping people with disabilities live as independently as they want. That could mean helping someone find housing, navigate Medicare, get connected with benefits, or learn skills for daily living. We offer individual case management, advocacy, peer support, and information and referral. Basically, we help people find what they need and figure out how to get it. We also have home modifications, like ramps, grab bars, or walker steps, plus assistive technology, recycled medical equipment, and if you need a hearing aid, we can help with that too. Everything from evaluations to repairs. And for those who need a little extra help at home, we offer consumer-directed services and veterans-directed care, things like transportation and meal prep, housekeeping and personal care. But it's not all services and paperwork. We also host social clubs, support groups, and community events, so people can connect, have fun, and build relationships. Because independence doesn't mean isolation. So if any of that sounds like something you or someone you care about might be interested in, give us a call or check out our website at empowerabilities.org. We're here to help, and we love what we do.
Well, hello, friends. Welcome to another great episode of Empower Hour. We have a great topic lined up today, and we have a really good friend of Empowerabilities with us today. We have Derrick Duncan. Hello, Derrick.
Hello. Happy to be here and talk about travel and all the fun stuff that life has in store for everyone. So.
Yeah, we've got a really fun topic. Like I said, Afton and I have talked about this one for a while and thought it would be a good time with the holidays coming up. But travel is all about freedom and connection and opportunity. And yet for many people with disabilities, there still comes a lot of barriers. And there's lots of things to do to overcome those barriers and make your travel safe and fun and successful. So today's goal, we're going to share practical tips, live experiences, and resources that are going to help make travel more accessible and less stressful.
Yeah, and so Derrick, well, we hope that you'll share some of your lived experience as far as, accessible travel goes, and what that really means beyond, ramps and elevators. So
Right. Yeah, I'm happy to share every story that I've got, and there's good and bad and ugly, and it all comes in. But blessed to have the experiences that I've had, and they're so enjoyable that I wish everyone could, go and do it. So however I can help share my knowledge to make that happen, let's do it.
Well, you're kind of a darebdevil, and you have no barriers, I don't think.
No, I try to not, let a lot get in the way of what I want to do. For those who don't know me, I got hurt in a downhill skateboarding accident in 2014. And it just totally flipped my life upside down, became paralyzed, instantly from it. So I basically just, can't use my legs, wheelchair bound, that sort of thing. And from the get-go, I pretty much told my parents, like, you better be ready, because I'm going to get back into stuff like that.
It's still going to be a wild ride, right?
Yeah. Like,
you are not bound then.
No, I try to not let it, control me. I try to control my life, to the best of my abilities. And, you just kind of roll with the things and as they come your way. But, I've always told people you just got to think outside the box and you can make it happen. That's doctors told me from the get go, like I wouldn't do a lot of the things that I do nowadays. So, that's kind of fun in itself to be like, ha,
It's a challenge.
Yeah. Like, it didn't stop me and, I didn't take that no for an answer. And, everyone else, they can do that too.
So what does, since we're talking about travel, what does accessible travel really mean to you beyond just ramps and elevators?
Shoot. I mean, really, it's, for me, just getting to where I want to go, and how I can jump through the hoops to make that happen. Me, I'm a mountainous guy. A lot of the stuff that I do, I feel like wheelchairs have probably not done before, especially in the mountains. There's not a lot of like hiking that really goes on in the wheelchair world. And so, having a good group of friends who are always down to, help you do whatever you want, that's a huge part of why I'm able to do what I want to do. I have great friends, family, that are willing to basically, say yes when I'm the one who's kind of feeling awkward about them helping me and things.
Do your friends really treat you any differently now that you have a disability, though?
Not a lot of them.
Maybe in the beginning.
In the beginning, I feel like, yeah, maybe some of them did. They didn't really, know what this world was going to be like or how I was going to react to things. But I think, me kind of still being me really helped them realize like, oh, well, we can still go do the things that we all dreamed of doing. We just might have to, kind of, like I said, think around the box or outside the box and just make it happen. I don't know.
Afton, I want to ask you that same question because you have a vision barrier. And so what does accessible travel mean to you?
Yeah. As far as accessible travel goes, I agree with Derrick in this one that it's really being creative and being flexible and just working with friends and family and saying, well, I'm not able to drive there, but I know you've always wanted to go to
I'm
this
a good
concert.
backseat driver.
Yeah, like I can bring the snacks. I'll pay for gas. You just take me with you.
Yeah. Okay. So I know there's still a long way to go, but how has accessibility in travel improved, and where do you see that it is still falling short?
For me, gosh, there's just so much technology out there. When I went to Norway, we were trying to think of like, how are we going to get around? It was me and another one of my friends who was paralyzed. So it's two wheelchair users, trying to find an Airbnb and a rental car that would fit all of our stuff. Which was pretty funny. The first year we went, we got literally like a hatchback car, and we had to fit, two wheelchairs plus two street luges plus skateboard equipment, on top of clothes and medical supplies into a little 4-seater hatchback. And the pictures of us puzzled in there, it was hilarious. There was like just luggage all over us.
Are you talking SUV hatchback or just really a car hatchback?
No, like a car.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was
Playing
a car.
Tetris.
Yeah,
little Skyhawk. I had a little Skyhawk.
Yeah, it was pretty wild and even amazing that we were able to fit everything. But we made it happen, and we used they have portable hand controls that you can actually just bolt on to the pedals so that you can still do gas and brake. And so my friends were able to skate, and me and Candy, we were able to drive the car, and so no one was missing out on turns and that sort of thing. So that was a big part of it, because at first we were like, well, how are we going to even drive a rental car? Like, there's no way that the rental company is going to set one up for us or something like that. And so, yeah, Amazon, real easy to buy them offline. And then all you need is just a little tool, and you just bolt them on and you're ready to go. but yeah, so that sort of thing, we figured that part out. And then as far as like hiking and stuff goes, I mean, I have like off-road wheels that I can put on my chair. And there's things such as like a Firefly that basically mount to the front of the frame on your chair, and it basically turns it into like a little scooter. So you can still get around and not have to be pushed the whole time. But yeah, so just technology and the way that it's coming along in the adaptive world has changed things completely. I mean, I feel like for me, especially on the things that I want to do.
So even though sidewalks may not be in perfect condition, you'll find a way to go off-roading on the sidewalks. Is that right?
Yeah.
Kind of gathering from this?
Yeah, I mean, if a sidewalk is in the way, I mean, I'll either just push through grass or, whatever it takes to get me up in there. Obviously stairs are still a big issue. Like, a lot of the, I guess, like infrastructure in Europe is pretty old. So, having some of the buildings there, they really had to, like custom make ramps and that sort of thing to get you up in there. But Norway is extremely accessible. I would almost argue like more accessible than the United States. They really care about their people there. It dates back to like old kingdom times there, where if the king didn't take care of their people, then that king was getting overthrown. So, really taking care of just the community there is a widespread kind of awareness that goes on. And I mean, I had people literally offering me that I didn't even know to like pick me up and carry me into waterfalls, and like get to swim in like glaciers and that sort of thing. So just the experiences over there and really like changed my life completely.
What about for you, Afton? Do you find there's areas that still need great improvements?
Yeah, as far as travel goes, I definitely haven't been as far as you have, Derek. But I definitely agree. Like there's been lots of work that's already been done to make buses accessible, to make trying to widen sidewalks and trying to put curb cuts in and make things more zero entry. But there's still work to be done. Mm-hmm. There's lots of architecture that's still older that just needs some some polishing up. There's plenty of bus systems that still don't really have spots for wheelchair users. But that being said, it's a work in progress. Even for people with vision impairments, it takes time to really to get people to understand some things, like even audio descriptions or providing sighted guide. That takes practice. It takes training. It just takes time to learn those things.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about planning and preparation. So let's say either one of you are going on a nice long trip, a vacation, a holiday break, or whatever. What do you need to consider before you actually book a trip when you have a disability?
For me personally, bathroom, like almost number one thing I'm always looking at, especially if I'm booking such as like an Airbnb. I stay in Airbnbs all the time. And, a step or two to get up into the door is fine. I can handle that. A bathroom door that I can't get in, big issue. Mm-hmm. Having to take care of yourself and hygiene wise, showers and, just going to the bathroom every day. It's a pretty essential need. So that's really like the first thing I'm always kind of looking at as far as like places to stay. And then usually kind of like secondary to that is just how I'm going to get there. Usually if I'm in the States, I'm always driving. I'll take my truck just because for me, getting into taxis and having to, rely on a taxi that's big enough to fit your chair or, having a driver who's kind enough to kind of help you around the taxi and that sort of thing. Sometimes can be a hassle. So, I usually just try to side on the or be on the side of caution and just have my truck with me, so I know, I'm always going to be fine. I'll be mobile and I can go places without having to rely on someone is super nice. But I know airplane wise, that was one thing that I was pretty nervous about because I traveled through the airport by myself. And I had, a bunch of bags and like my street luge and stuff that I was just kind of questioning, well, how am I going to get this all the way to Norway by myself? And so that was a big part of planning, just packing certain things correctly and making sure I have enough catheters. That's a big thing for me, being that I self-cath. That's pretty essential. If I don't have those, I'm in a big problem. I'm gonna need to go to the hospital or something.
Right.
So that's a big part of my planning. And one of my trips to Norway, I ended up getting on a flight that got delayed a whole bunch, and so my connecting flight I had like 30 minutes to make. And luckily, the crew, I basically let them know, like, hey, I'm not going to have a lot of time to make my next plane. Like, what do I do? And they actually had the pilot radio to the plane, and they held the plane for me, but they did not hold the plane long enough to get my luggage
Oh,
on.
no.
So I had, I just luckily planned and had enough catheters in my carry-on bag to take me through to when I got my other, luggage, because it took couple days to make that happen. And so that was like my biggest worry was like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen if I run out of my med supplies? But I planned correctly, at least for that, and it all worked out. So
Afton, I know you've done some flying lately to do some, conferences and things like that. I don't know beyond that, as far as travel, but is there anything that you really try to look for ahead of time when booking flights or airports or anything like that?
Yeah. For me, I try to get a sense of what the cost of an Uber or Lyft might be, or if I can get a ride to the airport, then I'm like, okay, how much am I budgeting for in terms of getting there? And then when I get there, how am I getting to the hotel? And then if I'm staying like at an Airbnb or something like that, then okay, what's nearby? What can I walk to? So then I'm not stuck. So I look at walkability in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's through Google Maps. It's not always up to date, but it's better than nothing.
Right.
And yeah, I still encourage people to stay safe in terms of when you're traveling, share your location. Like, hey, Julie, I'm gonna be at this hotel, so if I disappear sometime, this is where you can find me.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the questions you need to be asking, like airlines or hotels, rental companies, when you're booking for your trips?
I mean, me personally, I ask them, sometimes just widths of doors, just to see if I can fit my chair in and around the house. As far as taxis and Ubers and that sort of thing, I just normally ask them to get me like an SUV, someone that's in like a van taxi, or, someone who's Ubering in an SUV, usually easier to fit my chair in and out of. As far as planes go, I mean, I traveled by myself, and a lot of times when they saw me in a wheelchair by myself, they were like, holy cow, like, how can we help? So I got really lucky, and, usually I am always in a pretty happy mood traveling. I'm not at work, and I'm not having to stress about things. So it's like, I'm in a good mood. So a smile's always on my face, and I always come with like a perspective of just be calm, know that things might, take a while. And so I just try to not let a lot get to me while I'm traveling. And usually, having that kind of energy, I feel like people are more, apt to help you with things if you needed it. That's usually, I don't have to, ask a whole lot of questions. Usually just mainly the bathroom thing and doors, and I kind of have just learned what to look for, I guess.
Working elevators, I'm sure, is important.
Yeah, of course. Elevators. I mean, a lot of what I do, I'm usually not inside. A lot of it's out in nature. So, I'm looking for like paved paths, maybe asking like conservation or like state parks, where would be a good place to go to camp? Is there some sort of like special spot that they have that's designated for me? You know, that sort of thing. Because camping is, I mean, that's like an essential to what I do a lot of times. I don't, a lot of times when I travel, I just want to be outside. I want to, be up in the mountains and be in nature and that sort of thing. So that's a big part of, when I do travel as far as question wise, it's just like, where's the best place to kind of be for me being in a wheelchair sort of thing.
So Afton, talk a little bit about what makes a hotel room truly accessible versus just technically compliant. I know you've been doing a lot of work lately on ADA compliance. So can you address that a little bit?
Yeah. I won't get too in the weeds with it, but I mean, I know that Derrick has mentioned some of that, like, checking doorways, so hotels have to offer certain number, like at least here in the US. I don't know other places, but in the US they have to offer a certain number of ADA compliant hotel rooms, and so that usually means like roll under sinks and doorways that are wide enough that a wheelchair can pass through. Oftentimes they will have like it's more of an open space. It's supposed to be a little more open, less like crowded, scrunched up. So but they're usually a limited number. So oftentimes asking ahead of time before just booking online, call and say, hey, I do need an ADA room, like an accessible room. Oftentimes they hear ADA, and so that's what they'll listen for. When I've traveled at airports, oftentimes I bring my cane with me, or I'll have my guide dog, and so they immediately see that identifier for me, and they're like, "Oh, well, you need some help, don't you? Where do you need to take your bag? Do you want a wheelchair?" And oftentimes I say no, because I'm like, I don't need to be pushed around. I just need some sighted guide to where I need it to go. So it's really just, don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to accept help. And oftentimes they're more surprised how little help you might actually need.
After that makes a great transition here into the next topic here. It's the fact that accessibility isn't always visible. So how do sensory, cognitive, and chronic conditions affect travel?
Yes. So as far as sensory and chronic health conditions, when it comes to traveling, oftentimes that means there's a lot of noise. Like I know for me, like I use my ears a lot when I'm traveling, so I'm a lot more tired by the end of the day. And I know a lot of people, like with autism spectrum disorder, they are trying to take in a lot of sensory things, and by the end of the day, they run out of what I call spoons. You run out of the energy for the day to listen to people and listen to your surroundings. So having earbuds to bring with you, something to focus your energy on, whether that be like a fidget toy or like chronic health conditions, make sure, like if you're getting on an airplane, to bring extra medicine in your bag and your inhaler and whatever else you may need, because there's always going to be like a need for those things. If you use them at home, you need to bring them on your carry-on.
Derrick, do you have anything to add to that?
I honestly, no, I feel like you covered it quite well. I was just going to touch on the hotel part of things. The only complaint that I really have about ADA rooms is the fact that, I travel with people, a lot of friends and that sort of thing. Almost every single ADA room I've ever been in is a single bed. It'll be a single bed with, the accessible bathroom. But, I'm always like, well, can I get a double bed, like we don't want to share a bed. So, I always recommend if you are traveling with friends and you do plan on staying in a hotel that's ADA, like an ADA room, maybe bring like a blow up mattress or, I have a cot that I camp with all the time. So I always bring that along. Or like, I know when I traveled over to Norway a lot, I had a blow up pad, especially for the airports, to get out of my chair, and that was a big part of that. But that's kind of like off topic and kind of on a tangent there. But yeah, that would be my.
That's helpful.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So a lot of us travel with younger members, children, or just there's younger children around. How important is it to teach children about inclusivity and accessibility? Looking, to me, when I have my grandkids around, sometimes they see somebody with a disability and they're quite vocal about it. How do you teach your children, or how do you adapt to their boisterous opinions when in public, and teach them that everybody has their own barriers, and this might be one of them.
As far as that goes, for being out in public and children addressing me or any of my family members or anything like that, I often say talk to the person with the disability first.
Mm-hmm.
So
there you go.
If your child does have a question, oftentimes it's better to just let them ask it and go ahead and ask the person. And for me, I've got thick skin. You can ask me. You can say, "Why do your eyes not look right?" And I'm gonna say, "Okay, well, my eyes don't look right because I was born a little different." And they can ask the question and have that answer and not have to feel scared to ask it later on, when it may feel even more uncomfortable because they've had more life experience and kind of built up those filters over time.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like the kids are our future. So if you kind of teach them like, hey, don't ask certain things, or don't bother that person. It might paint this picture of like, oh, well, I shouldn't do that with anyone that's in a, that has a disability of any kind. I personally find kids' questions hilarious. They definitely don't have a filter, and they will say the darndest things. So I always welcome children and whatever questions they may have. But yeah, they're never gonna know unless they ask. And I always tell friends and family, don't ever go to Google. Always ask me. And because Google could give you who knows what kind of answer, and that's not going to match everyone's feelings. So, and I know my feelings don't match everyone's as well, but I'm always a fan of you live and you learn. So if you never give that experience to the kid, how are they going to learn how to communicate with someone with a disability? Sort of thing. So,
well, and it is kind of a great learning opportunity because airports are full of accessibility. I mean, you've got ramps, you've got the escalator, the little riding escalator things, whatever those are called, the moving. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the people mover. There you go. So it's a great opportunity to teach your kids of what these things are used for and who might benefit from them. I mean, I think you can make the best of that situation.
Of course.
I've got a great story about that, actually. Okay. My niece actually asked what the little beeping sounds at the intersections were. And so my sister said, well, how about you ask your Aunt Afton? She will tell you what those are and show you what they look like and why they beep. So it was very cool for her to notice the audible intersections that announce wait, and it was so I'm very excited. Once it warms up, we're gonna go and do a little tour of an intersection with her. So
what a great experience that'll be. Yeah. So I think travel, it's all about self-advocacy and being proactive and pre-planning to make the most of your vacation so it doesn't get you stressed out and get you down, and so that everybody has a great time. Is there anything that you want to add about the to the conversation about what we've talked about?
Shoot, I just always try to tell people, don't let, fear, make you miss out on a trip that could change your life, I've always kind of been one, especially with my friends, to like plan a trip and then be like, all right, guys, like we're doing this. And yeah, so, just if you have a dream of going someplace, just because you have a disability, don't let that fear stop you from trying to do it. I always say too, even if a trip goes bad, it's a learning, experience. You'll know what not to do next time to make things better. And then just, as life goes on, you just have better experiences. And, so, even if something bad happens, don't take it as a reason to never do that again. Maybe just give it another try. Just try something different. That would be, probably my number one advice, because every trip's going to have something that goes wrong, and it's going to feel like, oh my gosh, why did I come all this way, or why did I do this? And, I don't know. I always feel like at the end of the day, it's never regret to go somewhere in the world and see something different.
Yeah, lots of new learning.
Well, sure. I'm going to ask you on this note, should you experience something bad, something that does not meet standards, how do you file complaints or request different accommodations?
Yeah. So in the US, it really depends on where you're at and what you're experiencing. Oftentimes, if it's with a business, sometimes there's just no avoiding it. Some things are just like system-wide issues that they're actively working on. Like lots of cities have transition plans that they're working on to make things more accessible, and it just takes time. And for myself, I went to Disney back in 2021, and they have these headsets that they give you if you have a vision impairment, and it's supposed to like give you audio descriptions and kind of a guided thing when you're there. I don't have the specifics because I didn't get to use it, because it was right during the I think it's the Cloudflare, like when it was down, like the whole Cloudflare system was down. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it was down. So Disney, I returned it, and they said, "Yeah, I'm sorry. It's our whole system is down." So it wasn't an accessibility issue necessarily. It's everything is down right
beyond
now.
Their control type thing. Yeah.
All their technology, their whole site was down. So when it comes to reporting accessibility issues, like with a sidewalk, maybe there's a broken sidewalk, or maybe there's a building, it's best to, like, if it's something that you think the city is in charge of, then contacting your city. They oftentimes have someone in an ADA coordinator role, whether that's official or not. They manage those issues, and then oftentimes public service places will often honor accommodations if they can, if it's reasonable. So like even just moving a table or trying to, even trying to, like, I think Shelby talked about this a while back, like one of our wrap businesses moved I think it was a soap dispenser or a paper towel holder down while they were there.
Oh, nice.
So it's just little things that if you say something and you're nice about it, it should be a conversation. It really, really can help someone in the future.
Never be afraid to respectfully request those accommodations or changes for yourself.
Yeah.
That ties it back to being a self-advocate. So in closing thought, I'd like to say that accessibility isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And when travel is accessible, independence and opportunity expand for everybody involved. So thank you, Derrick, for joining us for today's podcast.
Of course.
We hope it was helpful for our listeners. And if you have upcoming travel plans, we hope you'll maybe take time to listen back on this episode and maybe some of the information will be helpful to you.
Yeah. Yeah, and feel free to reach out if you have any specific transportation or travel questions.
Yeah, that's something I'm always, open for questions. If anyone, ever needs help or guidance on things, I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I've done a few things in my life. So I'm always, if I didn't answer a question in your head today and that's something you wanted to ask me, fire at me someday. So always happy to help.
Well, thank you, Derrick.
Well, that concludes today's episode of Empower Hour. We hope you enjoyed it and hope you'll tune in again next month.
Thanks for listening. If you have any episode ideas or questions, feel free to email us at marketing@empowerabilities.org. You can feel free to listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Visit our website and get involved.